Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into a story that's almost hard to believe. John Gotti.
Right. A guy whose face was everywhere, front pages, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They called him Moby Dick in the organized crime world, a real headline figure.
And he just kept walking free from court time and again. It was like he was laughing at the law.
So that's our mission today. How did this guy, who, let's be honest, clawed his way up, end up bringing down the whole Gambino Empire, the most powerful crime family in America?
Yeah, the sources we looked at, including this really fascinating documentary, they make it clear his addiction to fame, his arrogance, that was the key. That
hubris wasn't just a personality flaw.
No, not at all. It became his biggest vulnerability. It sealed his fate, sure, but also led to the ruination of the entire organization he supposedly led.
So get ready. This is a story packed with audacity, betrayal, and just how a criminal's ego can totally backfire.
It really shows you the inner workings and then the unraveling of that whole world.
Okay, let's dive in. Where did Gotti even start? Well, John Gotti, back in the late 50s, he wasn't the Dapper Don yet. The sources call him a low-level street thug.
Pretty brutal stuff, too. Hijacking trucks, beating people up, killing people. That was his bread and butter, basically.
But he had ambition. Big ambition. He wasn't aiming small.
No way. He wanted into the big leagues, the most profitable criminal organization in America.
We're talking huge money here.
Oh, yeah. Estimates were around $100 billion a year for the whole Mafia network. It wasn't just street crime.
Yeah, it was everything.
Everything from, loan sharking and gambling up to sophisticated white-collar stuff, construction unions, the garment district. They had their hands in everything, and Gotti wanted in.
In 1973 was his big break with the Gambinos.
The Gambino family, yeah. Pulling in, maybe $400 to $500 million a year themselves. Huge operation.
And Don Carlo Gambino gave him a task.
He did, gave him a chance to make his bones, that's the term.
Prove himself, basically.
Exactly. Prove loyalty through violence. In this case, it was avenging the murder of Gambino's nephew. An Irish mob guy, James McBratney, was the target.
Gotti was on the hit team, got caught, sentenced to 7 years.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He was out in less than 2.
Less than 2 years. That's remarkable. What did that signal?
It signaled everything. He came out, got richly rewarded, initiated, became a made man.
And promoted.
Dramatically. Straight to captain. Ran one of the most violent crews in the family. By 76, he was definitely a rising star.
So being willing to pull the trigger really paid off for him.
It absolutely did. It got him noticed, fast-tracked him. Ruthlessness was, a key skill.
Okay, so Gotti's rising fast. But then there's a shift at the very top. Carlo Gambino dies.
Right, and his brother-in-law, Paul Castellano, takes over. And Castellano, he was a different animal entirely.
How so?
Well, he saw himself as a businessman. He was kind of removed from the street people, operated out of this big mansion on Staten Island.
The Pope, or the man on the hill, they called him sometimes.
Exactly. Not like Gotti, who was still very much connected to the street-level stuff.
Was Castellano trying to maybe legitimize things a bit? Move into cleaner money?
You could argue that. He definitely preferred the white-collar rackets, but the problem was he really looked down on guys like Gotti.
How did that manifest?
Well, he took a dim view of street crews like Gotti's, called them, pea-brained, muscle guys, jawbreakers, knee breakers, but not smart enough for the big deals.
Ouch. So he cut them out.
Yeah, cut them out of the profitable stuff. It created this huge divide, a family of the haves and the have-nots, as one source put it.
And Gotti felt that personally.
Oh, deeply. This is where that growing hatred of Paul Castellano really started to build.
Okay, so there's internal tension boiling. Meanwhile, the FBI is changing its game plan.
Right. For years, the Mafia seemed untouchable at the top. Low-level guys would get pinched, but the bosses, they kept their hands clean.
They never pulled the trigger themselves. Always insulated.
Exactly. So the FBI, around 1980, under Bruce Mau, who led the Gambino squad, decided, okay, this isn't working.
They needed a new approach.
They decided to target the top-ranking members directly. Start from scratch, basically. And the key, always look for a weak link. Find someone who talks too much. A gossip.
And they found one.
They zeroed in on Gotti's buddy, Angelo Ruggiero, longtime friend of Gotti's.
What did they do?
Tapped his phone, bugged his house starting in 81, and wow, the results were immediate.
What did they get?
Huge amounts of talk about heroin activity. They figured the crew pushed about 50 kilos of heroin in a 6-month period. Massive stuff.
So Ruggiero gets arrested in 83. But Gotti skates.
Yeah, Gotti was smart enough not to be involved in the physical trafficking. He avoided direct charges there, but it created a huge problem anyway.
Worse than the drug dealing ban.
Exactly. Mob bosses, including Castellano, had this strict rule. No drug dealing. Penalty was death.
So Castellano now had an excuse.
A perfect excuse to get rid of somebody he didn't like. And he didn't like Gotti or his crew. Our sources are clear. It became a kill-or-be-killed situation for Gotti.
Castellano definitely would have had them killed.
No question. Gotti knew he had to act first.
But killing a boss, that's not like a regular hit. That's huge.
It's monumental. You need permission from the heads of the other families in New York. The commission, basically. A captain like Gotti even suggesting it, he could get killed himself.
So how did he possibly think he could pull it off?
He showed some real strategic sense here. Unexpected, maybe. He gambled.
Gambled on what?
Gambled that the other bosses were also fed up with Castellano, his arrogance, his high-handed manner.
And the gamble paid off.
Amazingly, yes. 3 bosses apparently gave him the quiet, go ahead. And then, this was clever, he recruited Sammy Gravano.
Gravano. But wasn't he a Castellano loyalist? And rich?
He was. A rival in many ways, but Gotti brought him in as his right-hand man for the hit. Turned a potential enemy into a key player. Very shrewd.
And they got lucky with intel, too.
Yeah, they found out Castellano was getting sloppy, overconfident, riding around with just only 1 lieutenant, totally unarmed with no bodyguards.
Wow. Okay, so the plan. Sparks Steakhouse, December 16th, 1985.
Right. Castellano had a dinner meeting. Gotti used the crowded streets as cover. The hitmen wore white trench coats and also wear Russian fur hats to blend in, but also stand out, maybe a bit odd.
And Gotti himself.
In a final, incredibly bold move, Gotti and Gravano parked just only feet away to oversee the execution. Watch the whole thing go down.
Unbelievable.
It was one of the most dramatic hits in Mafia history. Total shock and awe for the Gambinos. Sent a message loud and clear.
And after that, everyone knew who was behind it.
Oh, yeah. Within days. By January 86, Gotti calls a meeting, packs it with his guys, and gets himself elected the boss.
But he wasn't going to be a traditional boss hiding in the shadows.
Not Gotti. He craved the spotlight. He attracted attention in a way no other boss had ever done, which, you know, in that world...
That's kind of crazy, right? Secrecy is everything.
It's fundamental. But Gotti, overnight, his whole exterior changed. Ditched the windbreakers for tailored suits, cashmere coats, even monogram socks, apparently.
Spending huge amounts of money.
Yeah, like $100,000 in a weekend gambling. He just loved the limelight. Bragging, posing, a total megalomaniac.
And the press ate it up. The Dapper Don.
They loved him, but underneath the suits...
Still a street mobster.
Absolutely. And he had this old assault charge hanging over him from '84, a fight with a refrigerator salesman, Romuald Pisyk, over a parking space.
Just a parking spot. But Pisyk must have been terrified, especially given Gotti's reputation.
Terrified is an understatement. Remember that story about Gotti's son being killed in an accident in 1980?
Yeah, the driver, John Favara, disappeared later.
Right. And the rumor, the really chilling rumor, was that Gotti himself cut him in half with a chainsaw. Whether it's true or not, that story got around.
So Pisyk facing Gotti in court.
He suddenly had a sudden change of heart about testifying. No surprise there. Turns out the brake linings on his car had been cut. Threats were made.
Hey, Gotti.
Walked free from court for the first time. First taste of that Teflon coating.
But then, less than 2 weeks later, April '86, he's back in court. This time, serious federal racketeering charges.
And again, he turns it into a media circus, a photo opportunity. The supermodel of mobsters.
Didn't a tabloid run a daily column?
Yeah, Gotti's garb. Tracking his fashion, he played right into it, happily obliged his public with a stellar performance, seemed totally nonchalant.
His lawyers went after the witnesses hard, too.
Oh, yeah. Painted them as horrendous, violent criminals, which, I mean, many of them were former mob guys. And crucially still, no bug evidence, no smoking gun tape.
So it gets acquitted again.
Acquitted again, though later it came out a juror, George Pape, took a $60,000 bribe to vote not guilty.
Unbelievable. A prosecutor's nightmare.
Absolutely. And that's when the nickname really stuck, the Teflon Don, because no charges ever stuck.
But this acquittal had a dark side. Informants were outed.
A huge problem. 2 FBI informants, Willie Boy Johnson and Billy Batiste, their names came out during the trial. Johnson was found murdered not long after. Batiste just disappeared, never found.
That must have infuriated the FBI.
It incensed the FBI, showed just how ruthless Gotti was and how dangerous it was to testify against him, but he just kept beating the charges.
Yeah, even with different agencies investigating, there were rivalries.
Big time. FBI, Queens DA, Manhattan DA, State Task Force. They weren't always working together smoothly. At one point, 3 of them had separate bugs in his headquarters, kind of counterproductive.
And another trial, shooting a union official.
John O'Connor. Yeah, he'd smashed up a restaurant owned by a Gotti associate. Gotti ordered him shot. Prosecutor Ronald Goldstuck thought he had a strong case, witnesses.
What?
The recordings they did have were terrible quality. Unintelligible, apparently. Another acquittal.
So the Teflon Don throws street parties to celebrate.
Yeah, seen as a folk hero by some, which is crazy, right? He's a cruel, vicious killer.
It's that gloss on him that he certainly didn't deserve. Why do you think people react like that?
I think people just found a vicarious kick in it. He seems larger than life, thumbing his nose at the authorities. But like the sources say, he was never anything more than a thug.
Meanwhile, the FBI weren't giving up. Patience and perseverance.
That was Bruce Mau's motto. And after 4 years of really painstaking surveillance work, by 1989, they were ready to make a serious move.
Focusing on his hangout.
The Ravenite Social Club in Little Italy. They set up 24-hour video surveillance, and what they saw was Gotti being incredibly reckless.
How so?
So overconfident that he was openly running his organization right there, holding court demanding capos, kiss his ring like he's a pope.
So his arrogance was helping the FBI map out the whole structure.
Exactly. It handed them a who's who in the mob, but they needed audio inside the club. That was the challenge.
And the club was noisy.
Deliberately noisy. Jim Kallstrom's FBI tech team, these guys were like professional burglars. They managed to plant bugs inside. But yeah, music played all on purpose, radios, TVs. They couldn't make out any words. It was useless.
But then came the breakthrough, watching the video feed.
They noticed something odd. There was an apartment 10, above a store next door to the club. And this older woman who lived there, Mrs. Celli,
She'd leave at certain times.
yeah, she'd leave almost like clockwork. And right when she left, Gotti's voice would disappear from the club recordings. They realized there must be an internal staircase.
And Gotti was using her apartment.
For administration meetings, top-level private talks. They called it the Eureka location.
So how did they bug it?
They waited until Mrs. Celli went away for Thanksgiving. Kallstrom's team went in, wired the place up, planted bugs. Brilliant move.
Then they had to wait again.
Weeks went by. Excruciating wait. Then finally, Gotti and his top guys started using the apartment for their meetings.
And the key technical detail.
Gotti was deaf in one ear. The FBI knew this. So in that small apartment, they couldn't whisper, they had to talk, loud and clear.
Perfect for the microphones.
Absolute perfect. The tapes captured Gotti's voice loud and clear, and the stuff he was saying, unbelievable.
Like what?
Just chillin' threats like, me, John Gotti, will sever your motherfucking head off, you cocksucker. Bragging about murders, planning hits.
Admitting to killings.
Openly. Saying things like, we're not sure he's a rat, but when in doubt, you kill him. Just laying it all out.
And boasting about the Mafia itself.
Yeah, proclaiming, this is gonna be a Cosa Nostra till I die. It was everything. The silver platter Mao had been working towards for a decade.
He literally talked himself into prison.
He absolutely did. These tapes, about 7 hours from 5 key meetings, were pure gold. He went over details again and again, loudly, clearly, incriminating himself and his top guys.
So December 11, 1990, arrest time.
Yep. FBI swoops in, arrests Gotti and Sammy Gravano based on the murders discussed on those tapes.
Gotti's initial reaction.
Still cocky, confident, and smiling at the pre-trial hearing. He had no idea about the tapes yet.
But when he heard them.
Total change. Like a cornered animal, the sources say. He knew he was trapped.
But the final nail wasn't just the tapes themselves, was it?
No. The ultimate blow came from Gotti himself, ironically. The FBI had another tape.
What was on this one?
Gotti talking behind Sammy Gravano's back, his own underboss, calling him names like the green-eyed monster, blaming him for killings Gotti hadn't approved, basically setting him up.
And Gravano found out.
The feds let Gravano hear it. This hour tirade against him. Gravano was furious, red, ready to explode.
That must have been the breaking point.
It was. Gravano broke the code. The omerta demanded to hear all the tapes. He listened and realized, why should I die in jail for a family I no longer believe in, especially for a boss trying to frame him?
So Sammy the Bull decides to talk.
He became a government witness, flipped completely.
And what did he give them?
Everything. Details on 19 murders he was involved in, including the Castellano hit, step-by-step accounts. He didn't try to hide his own crimes, which made him incredibly believable. The case against Gotti became airtight.
So the trial must have been huge.
Oh, massive. High drama. #1 media event, Hollywood stars showing up, and Gravano was the star witness.
How did he do on the stand?
9 days of testimony. A lights-out witness. He admitted to 16 murders himself, laid out the whole inner workings, didn't flinch.
Everyone knew the outcome then.
Pretty much. You could feel it in the courtroom. Gotti was done. For Bruce Mao and the FBI team, after all those years, must have felt like vindication.
Patience and perseverance paid off.
Definitely. Proved that even the Teflon Don wasn't untouchable forever.
June 1992, the verdict comes down.
Guilty on all counts.
Huh.
Racketeering, 5 murders included. The legendary luck of John Gotti finally ran out.
As the prosecutor famously said.
The Teflon is gone. The Don is covered with Velcro and every charge in the indictment stuck. Brilliant line.
Sentenced to life, solitary confinement mostly. Died in prison in 2002.
Yep, 23 hours a day in solitary. A stark end for the Dapper Don.
So looking back, what's the real takeaway here? About power, ego?
Well, Gotti's own actions, his need for attention, his loose talk, it didn't just doom him. His indiscretions incriminated an entire tier of Gambino captains. So many got arrested, convicted because of what he said on those tapes.
He brought the whole house down.
Absolutely. The sources call him an absolute ruination for the Mafia, saying he was inept, unqualified, and incompetent. He single-handedly wrecked the Gambino crime family, the most powerful one.
So the guy who fought so hard to get to the top was the one who destroyed it.
Precisely. That's the ultimate irony. He was seen as this modern-day Robin Hood by some, but really he was never anything more than a thug. His legacy is destruction, fueled by his own ego.
Which brings us back to that question. Why did people then put that gloss on him that he certainly didn't deserve? Why find that vicarious kick in someone so destructive?
It's a weird thing about public fascination, isn't it? Maybe we like the outlaw image, the defiance, but the reality, Gotti's reality, was just brutal and ultimately self-destructive. He couldn't handle the shadows, and the spotlight burned him.
A fascinating cautionary tale. Maybe true power, especially in that world, really does require staying invisible, something Gotti just couldn't do. Well, that wraps up our deep dive for today. Lots to think about there. Thanks for joining us.